Today I have an interesting episode for you guys, and I'm going to be talking about Avery's answer to the topic of the age of marriage in the Bible. Now, if you're someone that knows a thing or two about these matters, you would be aware that there is no specific age in the Bible for the age of marriage. But you see, from Avery's point of view, he needs to find something because the lack of a specific number would suggest that the Bible endorses marriage with minors. So, which verse do you think Avery is going to appeal to in order to push for a high age of marriage?
You ask me excellent question.
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 36. But if any man thinks he is acting improperly toward his virgin, if she is past marriageable age, and so it must be, he can do what he wants. He is not sinning. They can get married. The only time they can get married is if the virgin is past marriageable age. Matter of fact, the Greek renders it past the flower of her youth, meaning she is physically developed, she is mentally developed, she is no longer a youth. She's past all of that. She's not a kid anymore. That's what the Bible teaches on this. So if anyone tries to come up with and say, oh, well, back in this time, it was different. Well, we have 600 years before Islam. This was the standard. 600 years before Islam, the standard was set that the girl must be she must be past the flower of her youth, past marriageable age for her and her husband to be married. Not before. Imagine that.
Now, before saying anything, yes, you're right. There's no specific age over here, and the verse seems completely open to interpretation. But that's just one of the many issues with this verse. So, before even going deep into this, I'd like to point out that this specific passage isn't even a command from the Holy Spirit, as per Paul's admission. Paul says, about virgins, I have no command from the Lord, but I do give an opinion as one who by the Lord's mercy is trustworthy. So Paul is just giving his opinion. He isn't claiming that there is some sort of inspiration going on here. But what I find really interesting about the quote that Avery is providing is that there's a little footnote above past marriageable age. And that footnote says, if his passions are strong. Now, the reason why it's saying this is because there seems to be some sort of confusion surrounding the term huperikmos. And there's a difference of opinion as to whether this is referring to the male or the female in the verse, which is why you have famous Bibles translating this in a way that's completely different from the way Avery is presenting. The NIV says, if anyone is worried that he might not be acting honorably toward the virgin he is engaged to, and if his passions are too strong and he feels he ought to marry, he should do as he wants. The ESV says, if anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly towards his betrothed, if his passions are strong and it has to be, let him do as he wishes, let them marry. It is no sin. The RSV says, if anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly towards his betrothed, if his passions are strong and it has to be, let him do as he wishes, let them marry, it is no sin. Out of these three, only the NIV mentions age of the virgin as an alternative translation, and instead it says if she is getting beyond the usual age for marriage. So from the get-go, we got multiple issues, but let's get a bit more technical and go deeper into what the verses are talking about. Bruce Winter has an article called Puberty or Passion, and he deals with this topic quite thoroughly. The traditional rendering of the clause, if she be past the flower of her age, 1 Corinthians 7:36, has long created unease among commentators. For example, in their early 20th century commentary, Robertson and Plummer suggested that past the flower of her age is too strong for huperikmos. According to a late 1st century AD Ephesian doctor, Tyrannus, this is when menstruation and thus childbearing ceased. it occurred after the age of 40 and not later than 50. If huperchmos means past her prime, then what Paul is saying was that it was only after the age of 40 Christian women were permitted to marry. Some commentators have also expressed uncertainty about whether the issue related to the woman or the man, the abstract noun huperchmos, could refer to either. J.S. Kistemaker recently concluded that the word means past marriageable age if the reference is to the woman. If it is to the man, then it is one with strong passions, and he cites as support the comments of BAGD. By the way, BAGD is a well-known Greek-English lexicon. Bruce Winter continues, translators themselves are unsure. The Revised English Bible reflects the uncertainty of the gender referent giving his passions are strong, and for an alternative rendering, she has reached puberty. J.C. Hurd was also unable to decide whether the word refers to past the bloom of youth for the woman or with strong passions of the man. There seems to be evidence in Greek literature that either meaning is possible. If the word is genuinely ambiguous, then the immediate context favors referring it to the man, since he is the subject of the preceding verb. B. Witherington proposes that the young man is full of strong passions for his wife to be, and that the reference of huperchmos is more likely to refer to the man. Bruce Winter himself, of course, concludes that the verse is also referring to the man. It's got nothing to do with the women and nothing to do with the age of marriage. Anyhow, this was the verse that Avery went to in order to make his case. It's his go-to verse, and apparently it doesn't have much going for him. But wait, it gets worse, because we can just assume that Avery's not too well read on the subject. But by the way, I'm not too well read either. But yeah, there's another quote that Avery butchers really badly.
But he's a Catholic, and Mary was 12 according to Catholic Encyclopedia. Anyway,
no, she was not. Come on, Hamza, you're better than
in the Catholic
you're supposed to be better than that, bro.
The Catholic Encyclopedia.
No, it doesn't say that.
In the Catholic Encyclopedia. You're not Catholic,
are you? In the Catholic Encyclopedia, it says that there are unreliable sources that say such.
So the Catholic Encyclopedia is not reliable? You
didn't just hear what I just said. But
I did. You said in the Catholic Encyclopedia. Oh, so you're saying the Catholic Encyclopedia is rejecting this idea?
Correct.
Okay. Anyway.
This is what it says in the Catholic Encyclopedia. From the age at which Hebrew maidens become marriageable, it is possible that Mary gave birth to her son when she was about 13 or 14 years of age. No historical document tells us how old she actually was at the time of the nativity. So in response to Avery, no, the encyclopedia is not saying there are unreliable sources that say such.
The Catholic Encyclopedia, it says that there are unreliable sources that say such.
No, the Catholic Encyclopedia is actually mentioning this age as a possibility. It's not refuting it.
So you're saying the Catholic Encyclopedia is rejecting this idea?
Correct.
Okay.
Avery, lying is haram, and I expect your retraction on my desk first thing in the morning. Are you lying, Avery? Is that what's going on? Or did you make a mistake? And were you just like pressured and you just forgot because of there being so much pressure at the time? If you did make a mistake, then you can just come out and say, hey guys, here's a video retraction. I didn't mean to say that, and everyone makes mistakes. You could just come out and say that, but if you don't, we're just going to assume that you're lying. And to the rest of you guys, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The Catholic Encyclopedia, it says that there are unreliable sources that say such.